And it's a beautiful thing too. Hold up. Yeah.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about Smackdown from September 24th, 2021. Not a very wrestling heavy show, but a show that was okay. It wasn't one of the best Smackdowns they've ever done, but it was solid. It was okay. There were some things about it I liked, that I thoroughly enjoyed. There were some things about it I was kind of like, huh? But then, that's WWE. Gotta take the bitter with the sweet, dog. I mean, you do. It's just, you got WWE is not cake all the time. There's lumps of broccoli in there. You got to take your broccoli with it. That's the roller coaster of dealing with WWE. They take you up, take you down, take you up, take you down. We started on the upswing though. Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, their dueling promo. I am impressed by the amount of time they have given these women over the last 2 weeks to tell their story. They put Roman on the back burner, and they let Becky take over. I'm guessing because she's probably about to. We'll get there when I do my mock draft. I'll probably do the mock draft maybe on Monday. In any event, Becky Lynch starts the show, and she's talking about how Knoxville threw Bianca a party, probably for making her way out of there. And when she made her triumphant return after being out for more than a year, after having a baby, nobody threw her a party, and said that she just wanted to show Bianca some respect, and that Bianca tried to assert her dominance and left her with no choice and goaded her into this rematch. And she said she was just trying to be the bigger man. I'm trying to be the bigger man. Trying to be the bigger man. So Bianca comes out there, tells her to keep her parents' name out of her mouth, and that you may have beaten me at SummerSlam and embarrassed me in my hometown, which probably shouldn't admit those kinds of things, especially since we saw them already. But she said, you beat me when I didn't know who my opponent was going to be. And Becky says, well, you knew you was going to have a match. You just didn't know you were going to have a match with the greatest women's champion of all time. And she said, I was great, so you can be good. And Bianca Belair said that she did all of Becky's accomplishments and did it in a quarter of the time. This led Becky to smack Bianca Belair, and Bianca tore into Becky with some not the most polished of punches, but the intensity was there. Becky, of course, gets the Bianca Belair has become like Goldberg or Lesnar, not Lesnar, but Goldberg and Roman, where the best way to get to turn the tide on them is to run them into the turnbuckle. so that how many times have Bianca Belair been winning a fight and then she just get yanked into the turnbuckle, or somehow, some other way she gets her head meets that second turnbuckle? It happens so many times, man. I guess powerhouse wrestlers, you just kind of had to hit that turnbuckle with them. In any event, Becky Lynch had the advantage. She's about to hit the manhandle slam. Bianca Belair countered it. KOD, crowd erupted. And then there was this great picture of Becky when, after Bianca took her jacket off and stormed out, Becky had this scowl on her face, and it was excellent. It was a great shot, great visual storytelling of Bianca Belair's confidence coming back and reality setting in for Becky Lynch, who, as she clutches her title and looks very angrily at Bianca Belair, that, this thing is serious now. Becky was BSing before. She was bullshitting, but now she has to be serious. It's real. Bianca Belair is real. So I like this segment. I thought it was a little too long. I don't like that they have Bianca Belair kind of repeating herself too much. I feel like the last 3 segments have just been Bianca Belair saying the same thing. And I don't like that. But I have enjoyed that they gave them a lot of time to tell their story. Later in the show, I thought Becky Lynch was about to announce the stipulation to Extreme Rules. But instead, she cut a promo about she's been champ every day that she's been active since WrestleMania 35. And that's one thing that will never change. Some other things in her life may have changed, but that has never changed. She's the best. And that she's not afraid of anybody she can beat in 26 seconds. And she's going to embarrass Bianca Belair because she pushed her. And I didn't think about that until Becky Lynch said it. But Becky Lynch has been champion ever since WrestleMania 35. Now, she hasn't been actually holding a physical belt, but nobody ever beat Becky Lynch for that title. So that explains, of course, why she got the title right back. But it also explains that the person who beats her will be the first person to beat Becky Lynch in 2 years. So think about that. And I think that if that's going to be the case, and Bianca Belair is going to be the first person to beat Becky Lynch in 2 years, well, maybe that 26-second job may have actually been worth it. But it's debatable because, it's a smaller crowd than the SummerSlam crowd, smaller show. It's going to be fewer people watching, I believe. But, it was kind of, is it a fair deal? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think they should have done the 26 seconds. I'm still against that. But as long as Bianca Belair gets the belt back in the end, I'm cool with it. Does that mean she has to win Sunday? We'll have to save that for my prediction show. But it wasn't until Becky Lynch mentioned it that I really thought, okay, she hasn't been beaten. And that's really the kind of the purpose of her coming back, is she's probably, to finish the storyline she started, which is to, what I said before, it was basically Rocky 3, where she's on top of the world. Now she's really feeling herself. Now she got to be brought crashing back down to earth. And it seems like Bianca Belair will be the one that's going to bring it. And she's the right one. There is nobody else. The only other option is Rhea Ripley. She already got a belt. She got a tag team title. So Bianca Belair is the right one. That'll be fine. I expect Bianca Belair to win. Maybe even a question of whether they even close the show. It's entirely possible that they could pull the trigger and let Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair close the show. Some people might not like that, but I think the option is there. All right, Toni Storm is hanging out with Boogs and Nakamura. She's wearing a Macho Man hat, and I was like, okay. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Apollo Crews. This match was very fun. This was, to me, of course, a really good match. I've become a pretty good fan of Apollo Crews since his heel turn. The only problem is he lost so much momentum because they took him off TV and he stopped cutting promos. He stopped talking. He stopped being out there, stopped doing things. But in this joint here, he cut a promo. They had the Golden Lions. And the Golden Lions, they rule. They're over with me. Golden Lions are over with me, dog. I like that. But Apollo Crews cut a promo about losing. It's been 42 days since I lost my Intercontinental Championship. And he's going to bring back honor and nobility to the title and to his people of Nigeria with his commander Aziz. And it was interesting. I like the spot where Crews bench pressed Nakamura and threw him over the top rope. That was dope. And just to remind you that Apollo Crews is a very good hybrid wrestler. And so much that he could do the power moves, but he also can do the high flying, and he can also do the technical stuff. Really, really good. Boogs, let's get to the finish. Boogs suplexed Aziz. That was wild. Boogs suplexing Aziz was wild. And it says a lot that they wouldn't do that to Amos, but they did it to Aziz. So it says that Aziz is not that important. Or is they really are interested in putting Boogs over. One or the other. Like they've given up on Aziz before, like when they did the Raw Underground thing. They kind of gave up on it, and they just kind of like, whatever. That was a super push for, I don't remember what his name was at the time. But what was his name? Babatunde? Yeah, Babatunde or something like that. But when you the big guy and you getting thrown around by smaller guys, it's not necessarily a good look for you. It's not a wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in a match with Boogs and have to do a job, which would suck. But I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, man, because I like Apollo Crews. I enjoy his work. I Is he quite ready for the next level? I don't know. He needs to be in the story with Big E was very good, and I'm not sure if I want them to revisit that just with the big belt on the line. That could be fun, but they've had so many matches this year that they would have to push that back. They would have to push it more. They were feuding from January to like May. Even though it would be higher on the card on Raw or something like that to have Cruz and E, no, I can't deal with it anymore. Anyway, let's go move on to Montez Ford, who is clearly being groomed for a main event spot. Montez Ford is asked if he's concerned about the Usos. He says no. He cuts a promo by himself talking about Docs being at a wedding, or as he says, something about some nuptials for a close friend. He called Roman the Usos' daddy cousin. Called them bloodline bitches or blood bitches or something like that. And Roman got upset. He was real tight-assed about it. Said that he wanted to fight Montez Ford. Like, that was a very un-Roman-like thing, though. Like, for Roman to say, get upset and want to fight him, that's very un-Roman-like. Normally, he would just, he was send the Usos to beat him up, For him to want to fight Montez Ford himself was, an interesting thing. The wise man took his sweet ass time to go and do it, and he had to remind Paul, what are you still doing here? So Paul goes and gets the match set up by Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce. Then we get Montez Ford cutting another promo, and he's talked about how his big mouth got him an opportunity, and that he's tired of the locker room being afraid of speaking up against Roman Reigns, and that he's going to show them what he can do. He only wishes Dawkins could be here to see it. Dawkins. And then the main event of Smackdown was Montez Ford versus Roman Reigns. And you know what? Outside of maybe 2 botches, Montez Ford fit in the main event of SmackDown. He was tremendous. This match was all about Montez Ford, which is why it was so out of character for Roman to be in it. And they have dehumanized Roman this week, where he's not talking during his matches. Like, normally when Roman is in his matches, and especially in his main events, he's chattering throughout the match. He's talking to his opponent. He's talking to the cameras. He's talking to the audience. He's engaging. For the last couple of shows, he's kind of just been focused on working. They kind of telling him to turn it down. I'm guessing so they can turn it up again at Extreme Rules, hopefully. Because that's really what people liked about Roman being a heel, is him engaging with the characters, engaging with the audience, at talking as he's working. He didn't do that here, and he didn't do it on Raw in the triple threat match or in the tag team match. He just seems to be a guy in the ring, So him and Montez Ford had a hell of a match. The strikes in the ring, it was my favorite part. When Montez Ford fired up and he was doing the overhand, the chop, and then the overhand chop, like back chop, overhand chop, back chop, overhand chop. And then Roman was selling them. They sounded good, and you could tell that Tez was laying them in, but they weren't heavy. They weren't going to tear Roman's chest up or anything like that. He wasn't going to like get clawed by a bear afterwards. But he was making contact, and his stuff sounded good. His athleticism, of course, is unparalleled. Crazy stuff. He did botch, I think, a kip up once, and Roman was kind of shocked, like, what was going on here? And he ended up throwing a drop kick, a little too many drop kicks from Montez Ford. He needed to vary his offense a little bit. But even the botch, the way it was worked in, with Roman being taken off guard by the botch, like, wait a minute. And then Montez Ford just going with it and taking that opportunity to throw something, a punch, a drop kick, or whatever. I think he threw a drop kick at the time. Same thing when the table broke. He went to hop up on the table. He wanted to leap off the table, and the table just broke, like, just fell apart. The best thing about it, he just adapted. It took him like 2 or 3 seconds to recognize the table was in a heap, and then he was like, damn, what am I supposed to do now? And luckily Roman had, wandered off. I'm guessing, Roman is smart. He looked over his shoulder, saw the table had collapsed, and then just walked over past the stairs And without even telling Montez Ford to do it, Montez Ford just knew to do it. And he ran and jumped off the stairs instead. So, very smart, showed some adaptability, shows crazy athleticism, shows some intensity. Really big fan of Montez Ford as a solo wrestler. Maybe they could pull a New Day and they could let Montez Ford get a solo run without breaking up the Street Profits, but probably not. Probably not. The big frog splash is countered by Roman's knees into the guillotine. Montez Ford submits. Ford loses. Roman wins. Following the match, Paul Heyman wants Roman to show everybody what extreme is. What happens when the tribal chief goes extreme? This is where the Usos appear. They give Roman some chairs. They beat the dog crap out of Montez Ford. Then they put him through a table because apparently they're supposed to put him through a table at the end of the match, but the table fell apart, so they had to use a regular wooden table. Of course, there was no Dawkins, so there was nobody to save Montez Ford. I'm at this point now, though, and I know this is going to sound strange to people, but I'm just so tired of seeing baby faces. Yes, I know Finn Balor came to save him, but I'm saying somebody should have came out there before this, And to me, it seemed like we could have done something. We could have done something here. And I think that it makes sense. The guy's wife is on the roster, Like, and I'm not saying that she could have done anything like beat up Roman Reigns or anything like that. You could have found some type of creative way to, get her out of the way. Maybe that's where you had Becky Lynch hit her in the back with the belt or something like that just to prevent her from doing something. But you got Montez Ford getting beat in the ring with a chair. It's completely unrealistic that his wife would just stand there and watch. She's a wrestler too. And that's the one thing that, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Impact does that make sense. Is that, sure, you shouldn't be doing intergender matches, but Chelsea Green doesn't just stand by and let Matt Cardona get jumped. She gets involved. Alicia Edwards doesn't just stand back and watch Eddie Edwards get jumped. She gets involved. Everybody knows they're married. It's just like, your best friend is getting jumped in the ring and you're just in the back chilling. And and for the record, I feel the exact same way about the Uso. I can't remember which one is married to Naomi, but the one when Naomi got carried out of the building. And then they went straight to the Usos, and then the very next shot, and then I'm like, your wife is getting carried out of the building. Like, I get it. You may say, well, we're married in the real life, but we're not married on TV. Our characters aren't married. Well, that doesn't even apply to Bianca Belair and Montez Ford because their characters are married. So no, it just doesn't make any sense. And it would have been a great way to take that feud to the next level by having Bianca try to save Montez Ford because she's the only one who can. And then maybe Roman and the Usos are considering doing something to her. And as she's jaw-jacking to them about, wanting to fight or whatever, Becky Lynch blasts her from behind with the belt or something like that. And then you don't have to worry about her anymore. So that would have been a lot better. I think it would have been a lot more emotional. But WWE with this, nobody ever helps anybody. Your best friend getting stomped out right in front of you, and it's not a big deal. It's like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, the demon comes out, jumps off the crossbody off the top rope, beats the Usos and Roman with chairs and kendo sticks, drops Roman in the ring, and the crowd eats it up. So it looked very good. The demon looks like a threat, comes across like a threat, but they have a problem where they have turned the volume all the way down on Finn Balor. He doesn't have the same intensity that he had before. He's got the match with Roman, but it doesn't feel like the match is going to main event the show. It feels like it's going to be like first match. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like the Demon versus Roman Reigns will be the first match, and Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch will be the main event. That's how it feels. Because as soon as they announced the match, nobody else cut any promos on each other. And it happened around the same time that they announced the Brock Lesnar thing. So now we're just in a holding pattern until we get to Saudi Arabia and they can do the Brock match. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that we pretty much took all the heat away from Finn Balor and Roman Reigns, and now it's just the Demon. So now Finn Balor doesn't even exist anymore. He doesn't talk. He doesn't cut promos. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't make appearances. He doesn't confront Roman. Nothing. It's not fun. They took the fun out of this thing. All right. What's the next story, man? So Seth Rollins, he said he's been patient. It's been 7 days with no response from Edge. And that, his silence is speaking loudly. That it reveals that you're hurt very bad and you may never wrestle again, but that's not good enough. He wants Edge to say that I am your superior. I ended your career and that I am not Edge light. And he says, if not, he will find him and beat the words out of him. Seth Rollins is very angry. He's very intense. He's very serious about this. And he's doing a really good job being a psycho. Playing a narcissistic psycho, he's doing a really good job of it. And Edge will be back next week. So it ought to be interesting in what they do. Are they? Because I know they probably planned to sell that injury for probably a lot longer. They certainly won't be having a match, but will they be setting up their next match? Because what's the event after Extreme Rules? Somebody help me. Clash of Champions, maybe. You could probably have some type of match at Clash. What kind of match would it be though? Cage match? No. Last man standing? Maybe. In any event, I'm looking forward to it. You could take Roman off that card. The second match of the show, Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega. Carmella is on commentary, lounging on the table, again, being very vapid, talking about how beautiful she is. It's stupid. Liv Morgan is winning, and then all of a sudden, Carmella decides to distract her. Zelina Vega wins with a very, very, very crappy code red. Everybody is groaning and pissed because this match was like 3 minutes. And they're like, no, they're not giving the women enough time. I'm like, did you see this? This wasn't all that good. It wasn't terrible. Well, let's not. I'm being a little too generous. It wasn't good. Okay. Part of the reason why Liv Morgan is not good though is because they don't put her under pressure. She has 3-minute matches. She has 2-minute matches. If you really want to fuck with her and make sure she's ready, because she did, cut that promo online when she said she wants to be in the same class as Becky and Charlotte and all them, Bailey and all them. Well, she has to learn how to work a 10 to 20 minute match. The only way to do that is to force her to do a 10 to 20 minute match. And the only way to do that is to find somebody for her to work with that goes 10 or 20 minutes. They did it to Bianca Belair. Remember, Bianca Belair was, when she was in NXT, they was talking about how green she was and she wasn't any good. And to be quite honest, her shit was kind of choppy. And then they forced her to get better by putting her under pressure, and she actually was able to deliver. They need to do the same thing to some of these other girls. These girls do not learn anything in 3-minute matches. They just don't. I'm not volunteering to sit and watch Liv Morgan and Carmella go through an Iron Woman match on television. I'm not volunteering for that. But what I'm saying is, don't hire people if you're not going to put them, if you don't feel comfortable that they can work at least 10 minutes. Look, I know that ratings are predicated on the quarter hour. So what you want to do is how it goes is you have to hold people for 18. No, not 18. That's too much time. For 8 minutes of a 15-minute segment. So if you can hold people's attention for an 8 minutes in a 15-minute segment, you get the score for that quarter hour. So if you were to give Liv Morgan 15 minutes, that would be an entire quarter hour, which would mean probably tank your overall rating because people will be like, I'm not interested in this, which is why they never do it, right? But it has to be at some point, and that's probably what's going to end up happening at Extreme Rules. Is they're probably going to get 8 or 9 minutes at Extreme Rules, and that's going to piss a lot of people off because they're going to be like, "Oh my god, this match is so long." And I say all these people who are complaining, I'll give them what they want. You want Liv Morgan to wrestle 10 minutes? Okay, cool. You want 15-minute Liv Morgan match? Okay, cool. Let's do it. You know, it's not going to harm your TV deal. It ain't going to do nothing but piss people off and show you how bad she is. I shouldn't say she's bad. I can just say she's not good because she doesn't have the experience. She doesn't have the experience because they treat her like a Barbie doll, you know, like a porcelain doll. She, like so many of these women on the roster, they don't put any time into them. She didn't come from that class of NXT where they forced her to do 15-minute cold matches on television. You know, that's the Tegan Knox and the Shotzi Blackhearts. They're ready. They can do 10 to 15 minutes on TV. Liv Morgan cannot. You know, she's completely different. She would have been a Divas era star. And not just because how she looks. It's because they limit her exposure that much, you know. And now she's by herself. Now she can't hide behind the Riot Squad. They have to make it sink or swim with her. Either they're going to go with it or they're not. So, you know, let her go because she's only like mid-20s right now. They signed her when she was really young. So if you're not going to go with her, maybe you need to put her on a chopping block and let her get cut. But a lot of people seem to like her. She seems to be very likable, especially online. But just people want to see more of her. Me, I'm just kind of like, I'm not really thrilled about what I see, you know. But at the same time, maybe it's, you know, the classic, you have to work too fast because they don't give you enough time. Maybe if you had time to work, it will work better. Who knows? Worked for Apollo Crews, didn't it? They gave him like a random 40-minute match on Raw once, and ended up really changing his career. Zelina Vega too. You know, she's okay. She's just very small. Carmella is terrible though. She needs to get off TV. Anyway, our boy Happy Corbin is going on a spending spree throughout Philadelphia. He bought a bunch of fedoras apparently, and a spill-proof suit, a waterproof suit, which is badass. That is cool. And now he has his own talk show, Happy Corbin, Happy Talk. This was awful. He stood in the ring, whistled badly, said that he wanted to put smiles on faces because, unlike the Kevin Owens show, then said his first guest was himself. He's the happiest man in the world. He shot some more shit, and then Kevin Owens marched to the ring and got jumped by a hooded man. To which everybody was like, "Who is this hooded guy?" And he snatched the hood off, and I was like, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I stopped what I was doing to go to Twitter, and it's Riddick Moss, who I thought he was fired. Riddick Moss is back. I'm like, okay, they haven't given up on him. Now, I don't mind because Corbin needs a henchman. He's got money. He can buy a henchman. All right, so Corbin and Riddick Moss, they double chokeslam Kevin Owens on the stairs. And they laugh at him, and everything is all gravy. All the indie fans hate it. They think Kevin Owens should be unstoppable, or maybe they just think he should be in AEW. And they're like, he's just waiting it out, man. He's gonna go where he's appreciated, man. And I'm like, man, you and me, I hope so. I hope so. I got a bit of a conspiracy theory when it comes to the AEW fan base too, and that's what, you know what. Instead of doing my own video about it, I'm going to go here and workshop that thing right here. I think a lot of them are hungry for modern nostalgia. Like, a lot of these people, man, what they want is for these guys to just do everything they've already been doing. Like, when you come back to AEW, right? It's the American Dragon Bryan Danielson. Not anything new. The Bullet Club. It's been around for a decade. The Super Click, been around for like 5 or 6 years already. They want El Generico back. You know, it's like Eddie Kingston. Guys like what new do they really want? And I've been sitting here thinking about that. especially when I was watching Rampage. I was like, what exactly is something that's new? That's like something that the AEW fan base really, really wants. I can't think of anything. They wanted Kenny Omega, the guy from New Japan. They have, they kind of like the new guys, MJF and Darby and all them, but they really have no hunger for anything new. They want Kill Sting Kill. They want that back. They want El Generico back. And I was just kind of like, man, they don't want anything new. They want the same old, same old. That's what they want. And I noticed that maybe it's a lot of people who are like that. The people who want that sort of 2010s, maybe even sometimes 2005 to 2012 nostalgia. They want everything to stay the same. And it can never be that. And the one thing WWE always does with these independent guys, they force them to change every single time. And some of them, like Seth Rollins, for instance, they change so much that people forget that they were ever an indie guy in the first place. That's why they call Seth Rollins. That's why they hate him so much. Like a lot of these people who hate Seth Rollins they hate him because he completely baptized himself in WWE. He completely baptized himself in it. What they love about Jon Moxley is that he's like a zebra. Like Seth Rollins is like a racehorse. He's been trained. He goes through the system because this is what he really wanted to do. So he went through the training and he bucked the system a little bit. There's stories about that, him and Terry Taylor getting into it. And he eventually realized if he wanted to succeed, he had to play the game. He had to learn his role, learn what they wanted him to do, and he does it. Jon Moxley, on the other hand, was like I said, he's a zebra. He can't be tamed. He wanted to do his own thing. He thought he could be at the top of WWE while doing his own thing. And to be quite honest, CM Punk was the same way. Some guys are just not built for that system. And then when you see the AEW fan base, that's what they want. They want people who are not really built for the WWE system, who buck against it and then go right back to doing what they were doing before. Didn't learn anything different, didn't do anything different, they talk the same way they have always talked. They go back to their old wrestling name. They don't do anything fresh. It's just modern nostalgia. And if that's what they want, I say give it to them. Fuck them. Okay? I do not care. Because a lot of that stuff is shit I didn't care about anyway. But it really took me a while to sit back and think about that. And seeing people online basically counting the days until Kevin Owens left is what triggered, this conversation. Because I should be talking about Smackdown right now, but why not? Why do a whole different video just to say this? I mean, why it's on my head right now? People just want modern nostalgia, and that shit's whack. Like, why are you a Bullet Club fan 10 years after the Bullet Club was actually any fucking good? It's weird to me. It's not like WCW at all. Like WCW, like their fan base rejected all of the old shit. They rejected old ass Hogan and Savage and all that kind of stuff. Like that cartoon horse shit they were doing in WWE, they demanded something new. They demanded something fresh. You couldn't come in and do your nostalgia act in WCW. That audience didn't work. It wasn't until Hogan started doing something completely different that things started to change. And it's the same thing in AEW. I think somebody's going to figure it out eventually. Somebody's going to eventually figure out, I just can't come from WWE and then talk about how I'm back in pro wrestling and I'm back doing what I was doing in 2004 before I signed the contract or whatever. And somebody's going to smarten up and be like, it may be Danielson. I think he might be the first one to really get it, because he also kind of baptized himself in WWE. He's just had enough indie spirit left to leave. But I think he might be the first one that smartens up. And he'd probably do it before Phil does, CM Punk. He'd probably smarten up before he does. But that's an interesting thing I just wanted to dump out there. Far more interesting than Nikki Ash versus Natalya, I can tell you that much. Nobody cares about this match. I was wondering why it's even occurring. Nikki Ash defeated Natalya by a small package. Who cares? Natalya needs to be repackaged. She needs to go away for a while. We need like a break. Natalya needs to get pregnant. That's what needs to happen. Somebody, where's TJ? Somebody get this dude like some of them little blue pills. Give him whatever those pills are that JR sells on his podcast. Give them joints to TJ Wilson and lock him and Natalya into a hotel room for like a month and see what comes out of it. All right, we need to get Natalya off TV for a while. It feels like she's been on TV for probably 5 or 6 years straight. She is as stale as a 20-year-old Twinkie. She needs to go away. I'm not saying fire Natalya. I'm saying impregnate Natalya. Give her something that she can be happy. And then I can be happy that she's not on TV. Right? That would be great. And then when she comes back, she can come back to everybody's so happy to see her. And it's fresh all over again. But seeing Natalya just randomly lose in 4-minute matches every week is depressing. It sucks. And I can't believe they had Nikki wrestle on this show. So Shotzi and Tegan come out and they blast a missile from their tank at Nikki and Ripley. So we got a babyface and babyface feud here. Okay. I like this only because the girls are new. I definitely want to hear Shotzi and Tegan talk more. That's what I want. I want them to talk more. I think Shotzi could be this generation's leader because she is that reckless. She is that dumb. She is that colorful. And if you give her the opportunity, and if they had introduced her properly, Shotzi would probably already be over. But since they locked her with this anti-charismatic Tegan Knox, and now she's just Tank Girl, who she rides on a tank and she doesn't talk. She doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything. She doesn't wrestle. She doesn't talk. That's the most important part of this whole deal. She doesn't really interact with anybody. I don't understand why WWE thinks that people who are antisocial mutes are all of a sudden going to be over. Like, when has that ever been the case in pro wrestling, that people who don't interact with anybody else and people who don't cut promos, automatically they're going to be over? No! That's anti-thinking. It's stupid. The only way to get people over is to have them interact with more characters. Interact and do things. They have to do stuff. So, I'm okay with the young girls. They're going to interact with each other. Of course, somebody's going to have to turn heel. I don't know who that will be. Because Nikki's a superhero. She can't be a heel. Rhea is Nikki's partner, so she can't be a heel. So Shotzi is the one with the tank. And everybody's going to like her because she's got a tank. And Tegan has no charisma whatsoever. You know, she's going to have to get like a professor gimmick or something like that. That's what it worked for Serena Deeb. Because Serena Deeb has absolutely no personality either. But when she started doing the professor, I don't know if y'all saw those clips. But she started doing the professor. Those were really good. Because it worked with her really dry personality. And it worked off of her real life time as a trainer in WWE. So it worked in that respect. I don't know how they would make it Tegan Knox work. She wants to be Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel sucks. So I don't know. I don't know, man. But I'm okay with the young girls wanting to work together. I'm fine with that. As long as they don't beat us to death with every variation of this match, which you know they will. But it could be fun. Let them talk. Let them cut promos. Let them, banter with one another. Build to the match. Don't just have it. Which, of course, they're just going to have it. Okay, my favorite part of SmackDown. My favorite parts of SmackDown were these last two segments. Dominic Mysterio is very frustrated with Rey. Rey is, telling him, hey, you could have won, man, but this is what you did wrong. And Dom just like, enough. You said you wanted me to be my own man, but you're smothering me. And you're nitpicking me. Like, you're constantly on my back. And he says, like, look, if you weren't even there, I probably could have beat Sami Zayn. And Rey got real mad. He was so offended. He was hurt more than anything, right? And he was like, well, I guess I'll give you your space right now. And he leaves. And he's like, Papa, I didn't mean it. Papa, I'm sorry. And then, in classic WWE, which makes absolutely no sense, Rey takes 3 steps, and then from the other side, here comes Sami Zayn. He's like, right. It's like a classic play. Like all of a sudden, and scene, and all of a sudden, Sami Zayn comes in. So Sami Zayn is like, it should be no shame to losing to me. I'm one of the best in the world. I'm one of the best wrestlers to ever do this. But I've been in the ring with some of the best. I've been in the ring with some of the greatest WWE superstars ever, and I think you've got something. You know what I'm saying? Every time we got in the ring, you got better. And if you listen to your dad less, follow your instincts more. And I was like, I've been pitching for a long time for there to be a devil on Dominic's shoulder. I wanted it to be a woman because I think that there's a lot more there for female characters to be the seductress, the temptress, and all that. But Sami Zayn works just as well because Sami Zayn's gimmick is that he's a liberator, right? That was when he first started dressing like Castro. That was his gimmick. He liberated Nakamura. He liberated Cesaro. Now he's going to liberate Dominic Mysterio from Rey. And I like it. It might be better than my idea. I like this. I like the idea of Sami Zayn corrupting Dominic. It might be, and considering his character has so many more angles to it, I kind of want Sami Zayn to stick around. If this is what he's going to do, I want him to stay. If he's going to be able to talk and have this gimmick and it's a long-term gimmick, I don't see why he should leave. He should stay. Why leave? Go be El Generico all over again and be stuck in a mask doing comedy garbage? Fuck that. Be the great liberator. Find different people that you can liberate for different reasons. And this is fun. And it seemed like all the conspiracy stuff was basically a holding pattern because they had no idea what they were doing with him during the conspiracy thing because it went nowhere. All the conspiracy stuff and the documentary, it all went nowhere, which is frustrating because they put so much time and energy into it. But they have now gone back to what his character was, which is, a manipulative, cutthroat villain. I love that. That's awesome. That's the best thing. That was one of the best things about SmackDown to me. The focus on Montez Ford, Sami Zayn, and the next thing. Naomi comes out. She's got wings, which were pretty cool. She comes out. She dances. She has no scheduled match. She says, I'm gonna have a match. So it's gonna happen. Who wants to come out here? She's issuing an open challenge. Sonya Deville comes out there and says, not happening. Then Naomi challenges Sonya Deville, which then Sonya Deville says she will slap the glow out of Naomi, but she's not an in-ring competitor anymore, and says, not going to happen. Naomi starts the crowd. She's not really good at talking, by the way, but she's fired up and the people believe her. So she gets the crowd to chant, make the match, make the match. And Sonya's like, nah, cut her mic. Cut the mic, cut it. No more of this. So the mic is cut. Naomi still keeps the crowd chanting. Then Sonya calls for security. And as security is escorting Naomi out of the ring, Deville just goes on this diatribe about Naomi. How everything goes downhill after your big energetic entrance. There's nothing else to you. Why give you more opportunities? You're just going to waste them anyway. We keep giving you chance after chance, and there's nothing that's more to you. And it's like all this personal stuff. And it's just as Naomi is getting carried out. So she was, of course, keeping that all to herself when Naomi could move around and maybe come up there and kick her ass. But as soon as security get a hold of her, she's going to tell Naomi the facts. So I find this to be very interesting. This is a great feud. And to me, you got Naomi, who is an interesting character because she's not exactly a buck the system kind of character. But that's kind of what they're building here with her, is they're trying to play on the grassroots love for Naomi that the audience has. They're trying to play on that. They're trying to bring that up. They're trying to bring that back. Make her kind of the underdog. saying that, Naomi is great and everybody loves her and management doesn't like her. So again, it's a meta commentary perhaps on how WWE feels about Naomi. And so much they don't have the guts to fire her, but they have no interest in putting her in interesting stories or putting her in interesting situations. Maybe because they feel like she can't do it. But she actually is showing that she has something in this segment. Again, I don't think she's that great of a talker. If you compare her to, some of the better promos out of the women's division, Becky, Charlotte, Alexa, Bailey, Bianca to a degree, a lot of them, Naomi is not on their level promo wise, and that's why she probably never got the sustained push that they got. She can't cut the promos that they can, but they also never really gave her the material. And this was like the first time they really gave her a shot at cutting an elongated promo. And I think she did okay. Again, she's never been a strong promo, but she's all right. She can talk her thing. She can put it in her own words and put it in her own terms. And people believe this stuff. And now there's tremendous heat between Sonya Deville and Naomi. And I love it. I love heat. This is great. And since Sonya Deville is management, you can't blow that heat off immediately by having Naomi beat her in a match in 22 seconds or something stupid like that on TV. It's you're gonna have to work to get it. I think the match is coming. Sonya cannot have a match until probably after her stalker goes to prison or whatever is going to happen with that thing. But I'm guessing they're going to start working their way towards Sonya wrestling. So I'm guessing in the draft or maybe at some point, Sonya Deville is going to bring in somebody that's going to fight Naomi on her behalf. And it would be sweet if it was somebody who is from NXT. And I think that would be better. For somebody like Xia Li, we can go into the character of Xia Li. She's like a kung fu master, so she's like an assassin. She would be a great opponent for somebody like Naomi, because you can, if they actually cared to show footage of not Dakota Kai, but Xia Li kicking people's heads off, that would be great stuff. And be like, okay, Naomi wants to have a match with Xia Li, who got legs like firewood, and she's gonna fuck your whole day up. That would be excellent. If Nia Jax wasn't already, like, they had wrote her out of TV already, she'd be on another one, like an Awesome Kong or somebody like that. Somebody that she can't possibly beat, who's gonna like crush her or knock her unconscious just to prove a point. Just to prove Sonya is right. I'm not talking about like pin her 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, but get in the ring and they fight and she beats the tar out of Naomi. And just to prove that Naomi ain't got it anymore. She's washed. That's why she's not getting the match. And then maybe you could start doing this whole thing with the bloodline, which may be interesting. And the only thing about this whole Naomi thing that I didn't like is that they cut to her husband, whichever one of them Usos it is. I can't remember. I think it's Jimmy. They cut right to him right after this. And he's with my tribal chief, Us. You gonna have to tear down, Us. Like, what's your wife getting thrown out of the building? Like, you don't care about that? That doesn't bother you? That your wife is getting manhandled by security guards? Sonya Deville just said your wife ain't shit. And that's okay? That's cool with you? We good? You good? Like, nah. That's not realistic. You can have fantasy elements in wrestling, but you still have to have baseline realism. Sometimes WWE forgets that. They want all these characters to be their own independent thing. It's like, no, even fictional characters have relationships and things that they care about, that they're willing to sacrifice for. That's what makes them human. That's what people want. People want to know that Superman will sacrifice himself for Lois Lane. Oh no, it doesn't make sense in the story. Superman is his own thing. It's like, this is part of Superman's thing. What is part of the Usos is Naomi. It is. Why they keep trying to run away from it makes no sense. especially when you can add the drama of Naomi, maybe going to Roman and saying like, "Hey, get me a match. Can you get me a match on this show?" And then Roman being like, "I can do that. What's in it for me though? Like why should I help you? Just to add characters into that sphere of influence. That's the one thing WWE is dropping the ball on. Like for all those months they had Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, they're cousins. They weren't even talking to one another. They don't even have the same name. Like at least give them the same name or something similar. And it just doesn't make any sense that we wouldn't go there with it. Like all those years where they had Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas on the roster, they never interacted. They never talked about one another. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, it'd be so sweet if Bo joined the Wyatt family." They never did it. Never. And sometimes it may make sense to do something like that. But most of the time it doesn't. It costs you nothing to add Bo Dallas to the Wyatt family. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to recognize that characters have relationships. If anything, it only adds to the stories because it adds dramatic elements. The more strings you have on a puppet, the better you can make it move. And the more strings you can add to a character, the better you can make it move. The more layers you can add. It's just lazy is what it is. It's just lazy. All right, but SmackDown was fine. I enjoyed a lot of the elements of it. The matches, Usos and Alpha Academy, that ought to be fun. But they got to get through the Street Profits first. So this was fine. It was a fine show. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.